Hello, everyone, and welcome back to yet another episode of the Eljay Johnsen Show. This show airs every single weekend, every Saturday at 4 o'clock p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, unless specified otherwise over on my Twitter, at the Eljay Johnsen, where I give updates and guest announcements every single Tuesday. And if you have any questions over the week, make sure to head on over to my email, eljayjohnsen@gmail.com. And remember, that's Johnsen. I know, tad peculiar, but I digress. Okay, so I am actually quite excited for my next guest. He is one of a series of guests I've had, specifically being from the TTV Channel, which is a LEGO and BIONICLE YouTube channel. And he's actually starring in a pretty big blockbuster film this year, made by Sony Entertainment. I'm sure you're all familiar. That's right, everyone. He stars in the hit movie Venom. It's none other than Tom Hardy.
Hey, what's going on, eh? Well, wait, no, that's Canadian. Hey, I'm walking here. And I got some bad accent going on. You see in my trailer, it's really bad. And now I'm bringing it here so y'all can see my talent. No, I can't even do it. I can't even do this accent that he does. It's so bad. Welcome. Hello. It's me. It's Ven. Hi, everyone.
Hi, Ven. How are you doing
LJ.
today?
I'm doing pretty good. I was just at a little Magic the Gathering tournament because I'm a huge nerd. And
okay.
I played one game, won, and then immediately ran out to come here.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it was great.
Well,
It took a little longer than I wanted it to, but it's fine. I still got my victory. But anyway,
sorry, I dragged you away from that.
No, it's okay. It's
Okay.
perfectly fine. This was my priority. You know, the tournament thing came a little last minute, but I said, you know what? That's cool, but I already told LJ I was going to be here for the Eljay Johnsen Show, so here I am.
Fair
Boom.
enough. All right, excellent. Okay, well, in that case, let's go ahead and get into things. Go ahead and introduce yourself, you know, who you are, what you do, how you got into LEGO, and the overall community.
For sure. So I go by Ven, the notorious Ven. You'll find me on Twitter. You'll find me on Instagram. And I am a host of the TTV Podcast whenever I have time for it. I am a huge LEGO fan. I've been a huge LEGO fan since I was a kid. I got into the online community around the time that I got into BIONICLE. And from there, I got myself involved in a lot of fan art, creating sort of different fan creative work, I guess is the way to put it, for BIONICLE, and then branched out into other subjects. And now, nowadays, I am a aspiring concept artist. I will create digital art on my tablet and post it on the internet so y'all can see, and hopefully someday I can envision something really cool and put it on a piece of art and make that thing go into a movie or a video game or an art book or something. I don't know. I just love to draw, and that's essentially who I am. I am an artist who is constantly seeking to improve.
Okay. All right, I see. And that makes a lot of sense knowing you, obviously enough. Yeah. I see right now your Discord avatar is a drawing you made of Liwa Uniter from BIONICLE.
Yeah, and I love to just, because I've always wanted to draw stuff that I like, and you know, a long time ago, even as a kid, I couldn't draw Spider-Man to save my life, but it just makes me happy that nowadays, after so much practice, I can just draw Spider-Man on a whim, and it's something I like, and it's like, it'll look super cool. And even then, I will still find stuff about it that I would want to be better. So every day, it's like, it's good knowing that every day I am getting better at what I do.
Fair enough. That makes a lot of sense. And I mean, it makes
That's
further
my
sense.
life philosophy right there. That's like me in a nutshell.
It makes further sense to me because you and I ended up meeting in a sense, through your art, in a way, because what we did, we were very involved in a particular artistic expression, I suppose, which is, of course, the main topic today, but I feel like we need to...
we're gonna have to dial it back all the way to good over 10 years ago when I first got into Bionicle. Now, this is essentially where my artistic awakening began and where LJ and I met. So when I got into Bionicle, I had a friend at the time. I must have been like 8 or 9 or something, and I used to play with him on the playground all the time, and he would tell me about like how he was into Bionicle, and I said, "Oh, Bionicles? Oh, I love Bionicles. I have like 1 or 2." And he would tell me a lot about like story stuff, how the masks have powers, and all these things that kind of interested me a little bit more. So I said, okay, I'm gonna get more, and I would go out of my way to buy more Bionicle toys and tell him about him, and sometimes play with him. And he would one day he told me to check out this website called BZ Power, and I had no clue how to really use the internet back then. So he told me about BZ Power, and I was like, oh, okay, what's it all about? And he's like, oh, it's just really cool. It's all about Bionicle and na. So it's like, okay, sure. I'm like paraphrasing quotes really, but anyway, the gist of it was he introduced me to BZ Power. I signed up because he was signing up too, and I think he just like needed another reason to sign up. And we both like browsed the forums, posted on it. Just in random spots. I really did not know how to use this platform, I guess. I remember specifically one of the first topics I posted on BZ Power was this guy. I think his username was Just Call Me Joe, and he would create all these custom avatars with different colored masks and stuff. And I don't know, the smallest things amused me as a kid because I went ballistic seeing these. So I made a post, please give me an avatar. I want an avatar. Please just call me Joe. Give me an avatar. Like something like that. Because I didn't know how avatars worked. I just thought at the time, oh, he's making them and giving them to people somehow. I want one. And man, I lost so much proto for making posts like that. I used to spam so much. Then, as years go by, I stuck onto BZ Power, and growing up, I made posts that were actually worth reading over time. I created new accounts.
Oh my
to
gosh!
kind of start over.
Black 6, please stop listening right now. You gotta tune out. I'm sorry.
My philosophy each time I created a new account was, okay, it's gonna be a life-changing moment. I'm gonna restart my life on BZ Power and be somebody cooler because I was stupid before. So that past me that was demanding avatars was dead, and I moved on from little tiger to super tiger to Venom.
Oh my
The
gosh.
Venom symbiote. That was like the one I stuck with. And then one thing that really stuck me onto the website, besides like all discussion and story and whatnot, was the comics forum, because my friend that introduced me to the BZ Power used to tell me about those too. So I would go into the comics forum a lot and read all these various Sprite comics that are posted on there. And I guess one time I was like, you know what? This seems cool. A lot of people are getting attention for this. I want attention too. So I want to make this. I want to be cool too. That was my whole thing. My BZ Power, what do you call it? My BZ Power life.
Oh my gosh.
My BZ Power campaign. No, my BZ Power.
Persona?
Come on, you know the word. No, not persona.
Venture?
It starts with a C.
Oh.
Starts with a C, I think.
Campaign is the only thing I can think of.
My BZ Power campaign, because I can't think of the other word, was just look cool and be cool, like all the others. So I would read comics like Psycho Dogs and Carbonated Beverages. That was the title of the comic, and it was done by a username The Editorialist. I would read his comics all the time. It used to make me laugh, and I was like, you know what? I want to be just like him. So I used a lot of the same sprites I tried to copy his humor, and then I started making my own comics, and they were pretty bad at the time.
I actually have one of them here. So for anyone watching, you can see this is a... Oh, sorry. No. Hang on. Yeah, no. Okay, this is the one. This is a very, very... And I'll send this to you too, Vin. It's a very old comic from then. Now, the way comics work is you have a variety of different sprite kits. And what they are is they're basically a bunch of different poses in a different style. And sometimes they'll resemble Bionicle characters and sometimes they won't. This kit was called Razor. And Razor is an immensely popular kit in the BZ Power comic form. And Van, I remember this being something awfully unique about your comic specifically, is that almost all of the characters in your series were symbiotes from Spider-Man.
Yeah. Okay, so remember, with each new account I made, there was a new persona that essentially came with it. So when I started out as Little or Super Tiger or whatever, I did make comics with that, but like there were very few, and I don't remember making more past like 5 because they didn't get attention. So when I ditched that, I said, you know what, I'm gonna be Venom. I love Venom. Venom is my favorite comic book character. I love Spider-Man. I'm gonna make a Bionicle Spider-Man comic hybrid thing. And so when immediately after I created the Venom symbiote account, I went and started making Venom styled comics. So I would use these Bionicle sprites and slap on like symbiote heads onto them, and those would be my characters. And I guess it made it easier for me because I didn't have to come up with my own characters. I just kind of just copied them from the comics.
Yeah, not only did you have all the symbiotes, there's even, and I don't think I have an example of this, you had stinking Tom Cruise as a character in your comics.
Okay, the reason why Tom Cruise was in those comics was because there was another Sprite comic I used to read as a kid. What was it called? It was like this Mario Neglected Mario Characters was the name of the comic, and it starred like a bunch of Mario characters and other characters from other video game series that never really had any character or any sort of development. So you'd see like this bug thing from Kirby and this little bird from Mario or the main characters. Anyway, the way Tom Cruise fits into this is that he appeared in those comics as like this crudely drawn stick figure with Tom Cruise's head slapped onto it, and I thought it was hilarious. So I said, you know what? That looks cool. I want to be cool too. I'm gonna do the same thing. Gosh. I think that's funny. I want that funniness to be in my comic too. So that's why Tom Cruise is in my comics. That's why he actually uses the same head that that comic used, the same picture of him.
That makes sense. And like I said, I don't have an example ready, but for anyone wondering, it was an RZ body, kind of like what you see here, but with a photorealistic image of Tom Cruise's head stuck onto it.
It was great, man.
But yeah,
I stuck with those comics way too long.
I don't know. It was kind of fun. You went through a few of them. And, like in the comics form, it was kind of it was common for a comic maker to start out with one series and be like, all right, yeah, this is a series that's fun to make. Let's either A, make a new one completely for something fresh, or make a sequel to it. Now, you kind of sort of did a little bit of both, and that's shown here. This is a comic poster, and for anyone who wasn't a part of the comic form on BZ Power in its heyday, you had these topics, and then you had the first thing you'd see usually was the poster.
The poster was like the icing on the cake. If you were gonna post any sort of comic on that form, you needed a poster to like advertise it, like a movie poster. You had to really blow that stuff up.
Yeah, because the poster was the first impression anyone would get. And I'll send you this as well, then.
My first V poster. Oh.
Yeah, and it's interesting because this is also when you you transitioned from the Razor kit to another kit, I think also made by the same guy, Rahizaku, which was RZ. Now, RZ, like I said, these kits differ greatly from each other, and they're all different in their implementation. For Razor, it was a bunch of pre-made poses, and this was traditional. But with RZ, it was pieces, and the limbs had different poses, and you could make your own poses by adding different limbs.
Now, the funny thing about that is there's so much that happened in between the Razor comic and then this new style with the RZ comic. It really kind of hones in on that sense of how much I grew in that time, and how much I changed my style and how I viewed these comics. Because at first it was like, okay, I want to be cool, but then with every as time went on and as I kept making the comics, like I would make hundreds of these comic strips, and over time they started to change. Like at first it was like these comics were episodic and nothing much really happened. There was no overarching plot, but then I started to develop a thing as time went on. I made this whole thing where I think there's a story where Venom's GameCube was glitching after this another symbiote had poured Red Bull over it, and it was glitching so much to a point where the Smash Brother characters were leaking out of the GameCube and into the into the comic world, I guess. And I would make up these little stories and drag them on for so many comics, and then I guess I started to like that sort of thing because I would keep doing that. And as time went on, I switched up the visual style. I went from Razor to using, I think, Rage sprites, which were more realistic-looking Bionicle sprites, and I ended up making my own custom symbiote heads. Now, this is what really kind of kicked me into doing digital art, was making my own sprites, because before, I just took these kits and then ripped heads off of Tom Cruise and Venom and stuff and just slapped them together and called it a day. But now I started to make my own custom symbiote sprites and use them in my comics. And, oh man, I just remembered how many times I got called out for using symbiotes and stuff. Like, people would post saying, hey, this isn't a Bionicle comic. What are you doing here? Anyway. So I started to make my own sprites. And as another big factor is meeting people through the comics. So LJ, along with many others, would post in my comics topic, complimenting the comic, saying that they liked it or whatever, or that they didn't like it. Oh, man, I would get so offended by people who didn't like my comics. I'd be like, you don't know what you're talking about. What do you mean this isn't a Bionicle comic? Look at the sprites. They're Bionicle sprites. It's a Bionicle comic. But anyway, LJ was there for when I first started these Venom comics. He used to comment a lot, and I used to feature guest stars. So if somebody wanted their persona, their Bionicle OC to be featured in a comic, I would do that. I would put up like a small form on the first post, like, what's your mask? What is your primary color, secondary color, so on and so forth, and then feature in the comic. And one among many of my guest stars, the one that always kind of stuck through was LJ. And LJ became a lot more prominent when I started using RZ, the RZ styled sprites.
Yeah. And
this came up because I met another friend who made his own comics using the RZ kit, and I helped him out. We were co-authors for his own comic series. His username was Vakoro.
And that's so, right.
I started making comics with him to kind of help him, I guess, just add more fluff to his series.
Well, it wasn't even just that, because if you recall, back in the day, BZ Power, this is actually one of the greater differences between BZ Power and the TTV message boards, is BZ Power forums, or at least back then, would have a cutoff point to when you could post in a topic before it was considered a dead topic and if you posted, it would be revived and closed. They did not like that.
Oh, that's right.
The comics forum.
I used to get so mad when nobody posted in my topic.
Yeah, the comics forum had one of the shortest time to post times in the entire website. It was like 20 days. If you didn't get a post in 20 days, then the topic would be considered dead, and anyone who posted after 20 days would revive it and be closed.
I remember now. I used to PM people like, hey, can you post in my topic so that I can post another comic?
Yeah.
Because they also didn't allow double posting.
Exactly.
Even if you were just adding a new comic. So I had to kind of coerce people to help me keep my topic alive.
Yeah.
So I could keep making comics. And, oh, man. I remember that got easy over time, though. As I got better making these comics and making more friends and stuff. So when Vok came around, essentially I was helping him keep his topic alive.
Yeah.
And it got me used to working with this new kit. Now, it was so different because with the way this kit worked is it worked like a Lego set. You had to take these different parts from different sprites and put them together, and you create your character that way. And I liked it so much. I don't know why, but I grew to adore it to a point where I started using it for my own comics. I essentially rebooted my comics. I canceled my original Venom series, worked on Vok's comics for a little bit, and then revitalized my own series with this brand new style, new panel sizes, and so on and so forth. And from here on, this is where I just kind of I stuck myself with this Venom persona. I wasn't gonna make any more accounts or anything. I've gone too far deep. I've made too many friends. I've made a name for myself. I remember my comics were like so popular. It was among one of the hottest topics in the comics forum for a little bit, and then Dark 709 came up and was like, "Hey, it's me."
Oh man, Dark 709. I don't know who to compare him to really, but he was the big cheese. He became super popular for the longest time.
He was like a nice Logan Paul. He just came out of nowhere, did some funny stuff, and everyone loved it.
What if it was Logan Paul though?
Oh no, he would not be Logan Paul.
But like, just imagine, because he kind of dropped off around the same time Logan Paul started appearing, right? And I know Dark 709, he was like ripped.
No, there's no way, because Dark 709 was a nice guy.
That's
and
true.
Logan Paul, well, we don't need to get into it, but he's Logan Paul.
Yeah, he's not a nice guy.
Is that they both kind of came up out of nowhere and got a lot of hype and attention drawn to them. And yeah, that's Dark 709.
Yeah, but he was genuinely such a
He was genuinely cool. He was cool, and that's why I couldn't be mad at him either.
Yeah.
I used to be like, man, he's not that great, and then I would read his comics and all the posts and stuff, and I would just think, oh man, he is actually kind of cool. Oh, I like these comics.
My first post on BZ Power was in one of his comic topics. I don't remember what I asked. It was something to do with Bob. But yeah, no, that was...
Oh, like, why does Bob like cookies?
No, I don't even know if it was that. It's something about Bob being a Toa. And I don't exactly remember. That's
right. No, you know what? I think that's what it was. He used to do these Flash animated movies for his comics. As soon as he put the first one out, as soon as he put the first one out, man, everyone gave him attention.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody wanted to be like him. I remember I wanted to do my own Flash animated movie, but I was like, how do I do it? Where do I start?
Yeah.
Never mind.
Same. No, and it's fascinating, too, though, because Dark Zone 9, like, there's something to be said. On the comics forum, usually what would happen is someone would make a comic series, somebody else would be inspired by the comic series, and then make their own comics. Mm-hmm. And so you'd see a lot of references and a lot of things that kind of are either an homage or directly ripped from the Inspiration comic series. And Dark 709, I think, is single-handedly responsible for the largest amount of inspirations. Like, he laid the groundwork for the culture of the comics form to the point where...
Not only that, he made his own Sprite kit.
That's right.
For people to use.
I totally forgot about that.
He came out with his own Sprite kit and dominated like he was Apple. Everybody started using his Sprite kit.
That's true.
It was astounding.
Yeah, no, he was the driving force behind... He's like the Superman, like, for DC Comics, but for the comics form. He laid the groundwork. He influenced so many people. Like, the majority of people there, until later years, made their comics set in a place Dark 709 created called the Comic Land. And then he made his own Sprite kit, which was Chrome. No, it wasn't Chrome. It was Chimoru. It was Chimoru. And it was immensely popular.
Yeah, people loved the Chimoru kit. I remember for a while after he came out with that kit, it was either you use RZ or you use Chimoru. Those are the last standing Sprite kits that newcomers would come and use.
Yeah.
And it was funny just to see this rivalry go on, and then you had just very few Sprite comic makers like Eljay, for instance, who didn't use either.
That's right. No, I used the other option, which was more of a popular option before Dark 709 really became super well known. It's a Sprite kit called Rage, and
that was the one I used for a little bit, a little more realistic style. Bionicle sprites, and man, that was a cool kit. I think that was one of the reasons why, besides us becoming friends and meeting through my comic topic, I think I recognized you for still using Rage, and despite all these other these sprites coming out, that you continue to use. If anything, you used newer versions of it, which is so cool to me.
It was actually kind of funny though, because I was such a holdout. Because Rage, while also being a staff member on BZ Power, made Sprite kits, of course, himself. And he made several iterations of the Rage kit. What I used was Rage 2.0. But he came out with a couple of other iterations afterwards, specifically the most notable of which being Rage 2.5. And
that was my favorite.
Anyone who used Rage switched to 2.5, but I was like, I like the simplicity of 3 shades. So I'm going to stick with 2.0, and that's all I ever used.
That was the biggest thing. Shades mattered so much to these sprites. The biggest upgrade to a Sprite kit would be if it got an extra shade of color to it. That'd be the craziest thing. It would drive people bonkers.
Yeah,
I remember someone came out with like a 12-shade Chimoru kit or something, and that's when people were like, okay, this doesn't look good.
I remember 6-shade. 6-shade Chimoru was immensely popular. I never liked how it looked. I thought it was a little much, because what a lot of people would do in the comics form is they would enlarge the sprites, and the more shades you have, the
less comprehensive it was to look at. Really.
Exactly. It looked better smaller.
A lot more layers of pixels rather than just seeing a flat image.
Yeah, exactly. So I like to stick to 3 shades, because stuff like early RZ, early Razor, they would be a black outline and then 2 shades in that.
See, we learned a lot of nice little art techniques by making these comics. Like, I learned a lot about contrast, and I learned Photoshop and GIMP from making these comics.
I remember you were a massive proponent of GIMP.
Yeah, I used to use GIMP. As soon as I found out about GIMP and the fact that it was free, I downloaded that, immediately just started like spamming GIMP effects into my comics. Every other comic had some sort of special effect because I wanted to add that flair. That was another thing that happened in the comics forum. It wasn't just, let's use MS Paint to copy and paste these sprites. No, people were evolving. We went from MS Paint to GIMP. Some people went straight to Photoshop and made even better stuff. And these comics, they went from being these simple sprite comics that you saw on screen, like the ones that I make, to something really like a visual masterpiece almost. And I used to try and emulate it, because I would see it really well done in other sprite comics. There were areas I think I look back on it and I'm like, okay, this looked pretty good. Other areas, why so much solar flare and this and that. Oh, too much motion blur.
Yeah, no, I remember that. I remember photorealistic comics became a huge deal.
Yeah, yeah.
New Power Rocks really popularized that.
That's right. He started it.
Yeah, no,
his comics used to look so good.
Yeah, another thing that New Power Rocks also popularized was daily comics.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
And the trade there was, of course, a normal comic, like what you see on screen from Vens, this is a fairly standard length. And sometimes they'd be shorter, sometimes they'd be longer. But they'd come out maybe once or twice a week. But New Power Rocks, another comic maker at the time, what he would do is he would make 4-panel long comics, 3 to 4 panels long, and post them every single day. So it'd be very short, concise, kind of stuff you'd see in a newspaper. And that was something that really took a lot of people by storm. And it's like, I was never a big fan of that, but a lot of people were.
Yeah, it's mainly because he just got so much attention already, I think, and when he started putting that out, people saw how much attention he was getting, and they saw what he did, how much attention he already had, and they're like, "Oh, this is how you get popular, by doing this." I think that's essentially what happened with every popular comic maker and their influences. They gain attention for doing one thing, and then they do something different. That's it is revolutionary, but then people don't really look at that. They look more at the attention they get, and then they start to copy it.
Yeah, no, definitely.
At least that was my mindset. I would just lurk through some comics just to see what they do, like some of the popular comics to see what they do, and then copy that sort of.
No, I think I did the same thing as well, because like, especially, even though my favorite comic maker was always Vaki Commander, who, man, I wonder where he is. But even though he was my favorite comic maker, I was heavily, heavily inspired by Dark 709, and you can even see that. My original character was Eljay Mangosteen. That was his whole obsession, and characters with food obsessions were a really popular trend to have in the comics form, specifically that of Dark 709's character, Bob. Bob loved cookies, and Bob, my parody of Bob, he was stupid, he liked the food. So my character was Fred, and he liked bananas, and he was stupid too. You'd see that all over the comics form.
It's interesting because we generally treated the comics, all of the comic series, as like a TV series. I think because I remember myself and other comic makers, the way we would make our comics, it would be like in seasons. So after every 100 comics, we'd move on to like Venom 2.0.
Ah, yes, V2.
Or V2 is what I called it. So my comics that used, I'm stuttering so much, my comics that used RZ were just called V. It was a V with the 2 tilde or squiggly lines on each side of it. So after 100 comics, they were called V.2. After another 100 comics, they were V.3. And the story or overarching plot that I would try to tell with the comics would change after these little season finales I would do. So there would be these normal comics I'd post every so often, about 6 panels or so. And then once it came closer to the next 100 mark, I would make this really long comic strip with so much stuff happening, all this drama. I remember in the second season finale, I did a little revelation where Venom's girlfriend, the female Venom, she was actually like this sleeper double agent for a bigger symbiote, this big, awesome, almighty, crazy, colossal symbiote. I think I called it Cataclysm, and that was emerging from underneath the ground.
I remember that. Yeah.
that was like my big event right there, was that this giant monster symbiote was coming out of the ground, and all the other symbiotes in the comic land had to team up and go up against him. And ultimately, the solution was, all right, let's nuke everything.
I remember that too.
Let's get everybody in a little like fridge-like thingy, like Indiana Jones style, and to save everyone and nuke the whole land, nuke the big symbiote. But before that, I had to have a little bit of heartbreak. Like, oh, I'm actually not your girlfriend. I am a double agent. There's never been love. There's never been any genuine friendship. You know, like, I used to go all out in making this comic like dark. It would get too real sometimes. Too real. Man, good times.
It's so fascinating too, because this wasn't even exclusive to V2. Like, everyone did stuff like this, where they'd have these big moments, these big character moments, and of course everyone's really young, so you know the writing is, of course, maybe not as grandiose as something you'd see now, like maybe from a Marvel movie or something comparable. But to us, it's like, whoa.
We used to try so hard, yeah, make these action-packed, and I think this was another part of Dark 709's influence, because he, I think, ended one of his seasons of his comics with that movie that I mentioned.
Yeah, he always ended his stuff
everybody's
with films.
minds. Yeah, these flash animated. Man, I really wish I had made one. That would have been so cool.
I tried. I tried to make one, and it just got to be too much, and took too much time. So I just made it like an epic.
Yeah. Same. So, and it's interesting because after a while of taking the storytelling part so seriously, my comics became way less episodic and more about building up this plot line with every single comic and getting a little bit more serious in tone. And I guess that kind of reflected how I was growing up, because you know, at first it's like, oh, I'm this innocent little kid getting introduced to Bionicle and wanting to do his own comics and stuff, but these comics kind of grew with me, and as I matured and became an angsty teenager, that sort of reflected in my comic making. So that's where all this serious stuff came from. Oh man, I remember I was making these comics when like Twilight came out, and I used to hear all about that stuff, and I used to be so edgy, like, ugh, Twilight's all fake darkness. I know how to do real darkness. Kill my characters and make them edgy. And yeah, I think it kind of killed it for me because it made it harder for me to keep up making these comics. I would have to write notes about what happened in the last comic, because sometimes I'd forget where I was going with my story. I had to keep up with school, and I started making friends, and you know, as time went on, it wasn't just me at the computer all the time I wasn't at school. I became a full-fledged high school teenager that had other things to prioritize, and that kind of like homework became harder, so I had to spend less time on making comics and more on my homework. And when I wasn't doing homework, I didn't want to work on a comic. I wanted to go out or something, or do something else that didn't remind me of work. And man, so that's kind of where I dropped off of making comics, and actually where I started dropping into just drawing and becoming an illustrator more so than anything, because I would just draw in my pastime, and that'd be my fun little thing. I would even draw little sketches of my Venom characters and stuff just to get practice, I guess. I would make sprites. I used to make my own sprites a lot, and I would try to expand a lot of kits that were coming out. I expanded that RZ kit so much.
Yeah.
I made so many custom sprites for that based on later years of Bionicle, because RZ himself was not on the forum anymore. So I took it upon myself to carry on his legacy and create new masks and new content for the kit. I would do this like way more often than make comics. So
I remember that too, and it was always really exciting. And for anyone watching the actual video itself, here's another one of Ven's comics, the example from V2. Which reminds me, let me go ahead and send this to you as well, Vin. With your help, we kind of made my cat Beastie a bit of a celebrity, a pet celebrity in the comics form. He'd start popping up in all sorts of different comics after he appeared in yours.
Yeah, I remember good old Beastie.
Yeah, that was funny. But yeah, no, it's very fascinating how, in a way, making comics kind of helped us get accustomed to kind of a rhythm, kind of meeting deadlines and meeting expectations and doing things
because sometimes we even made comics together, like I did with Vakoro. I tried to work with other comic makers to do other comic series. I want to say we actually did one together, but I can't remember off the top of my head what it was.
I don't think that you and I ever did. Oh wait,
we just talked a lot.
No, Civil War.
Civil War. Oh my god. Civil War was so okay. I have mixed feelings about Civil War. I remember that as like one of my proudest moments of being a committed comic maker, was rounding up all 20 different comic makers from the forum and getting them all together to plan out and create this one comic book series where it was just about all of our personas fighting against each other, like the Marvel Civil War comics. And it was cool as a concept. It did not, it's 20 different writers on a single story. There was no way it was going to work out realistically, but in my mind it sounded amazing. So that comic went on for a little bit and then died because no one wanted to work on it.
Yeah, no,
there's so much confusion. And I remember you were one of my boys. You were one of the only ones that made comics for it. Then there's maybe 5 other people that did comics, and the other 10 or so, they did not want to touch it. They weren't motivated.
Mm-hmm.
They were confused, and I don't blame them. And that, kind of fell apart.
Yeah, and you would see comic collaborations like that every now and then. I remember one that I was always a big fan of that did usually work out really well was oh goodness, I don't remember the name. It was the comic calendar. It was the comic Christmas calendar. Where
yes, that was great. Okay, I remember having fun with making my comic for that.
Yeah, and essentially, what do they call that? What do they call that kind of a calendar?
It was an advent calendar.
Advent calendar. Thank you. There we go.
So every day, a new comic maker would post their own comic. They only had to contribute one. So there were 31 different authors contributing to this project, just one comic a day.
Mm-hmm.
And man, that was so cool. Just seeing all the different styles and stuff coming together for this one project that wasn't confusing or hard to work on.
Yeah, no,
man.
It worked out really, really well. And I remember everyone always looked forward to it because it's annual. Everyone could contribute. It was always a lot of fun. But back to your very original point before we kind of got off on this.
Mm-hmm.
What was it you were saying again?
What was I saying? What was it about?
I swear I'm trying to remember.
Oh, how we kind of work together on the comic stuff. Yeah, so I guess we didn't really work on too many projects together, but we talked a lot.
Yes.
We would chat together. We'd go into this chat room with a bunch of other comic artists, and we would be among some of the few to just chat the most.
Mm-hmm.
And we would chat about our comics. We would chat about whatever was new or what sprites. We used to work on sprites a lot together. I remember that.
Yeah. We definitely collaborated on a lot of things in comics, but not necessarily on comics.
Mm-hmm.
Because I remember. Oh goodness! You made a bunch of symbiote sprites for a symbiote that I ended up taking on in your comics, and I gave you Beastie's sprite, and I think several Mangosteen sprites, and stuff like that. And
we shared, we exchanged resources.
Yeah, Yeah, and anytime there was like a really big sprite dump of things that just blew us away, we'd be like, hey, did you see this? Check this out. Like, I don't remember his name. I don't remember who gave me this just massive gallery full of RZ sprites. There's a huge RZ expansion.
Antez or
yeah,
Antez
yeah,
or something.
Antez. That was it.
Yeah.
And it's like, Ven,
That
check
dude.
this out.
He made so much stuff. I thought I made a lot of expansions to the RZ kit. No, this guy was crazy.
Yeah.
He did so much. He made so many sprites. I don't know how he found the time for it.
I have no idea. And it's like, I would do that too with the Rage kit. I still have a ton of different Rage sprites that are based off of things that Rage never got around to for 2.0. And heck, I even ended up working on... See, there were 2 different subforms. There were 3 subforms for the general art category. There was general art 1, which was just normal artwork, pictures, paintings, drawings, etc. Then there was the kits and shops form, so artwork 2. And that was where you would have a bunch of people who
shops.
Yeah, so you'd have people who make sprite kits. You would have people who
made custom avatars, like Just Call Me Joe.
Custom avatars, custom signatures. And then there was a place called the Forgery. And the Forgery would take in sprite requests, and any sprite and anything you wanted made, that was, of course, pertaining to the website's rules, you could have it made in whichever sprite kit you wanted. I ended up going there, and I made a ton of sprites. I was the handedly most requested sprite maker at that place ever.
Oh, I remember that.
Yeah.
Man, yeah, that's right. That was cool. I always like the concept of shops
Yeah.
like that where other artists can contribute to it. Man, we had like a nice little society growing in that forum.
That's a
People
thing.
working together and creating communities, sub-communities. It was really interesting.
I've said this to a lot of people. I said this to someone I was talking to very recently. BZ Power has a forum culture unlike any that I have yet to see again.
That's a great way to put it. A forum culture. That is the perfect way to describe it.
And the crazy thing is, too, not only did BZ Power as a website have its own culture and its own history, but the comics forum had one unto itself as well. And it was this totally unique experience, this totally unique place. For reference, by the way,
Dude, the comics book forum, comics forum had its own bit of drama, passion, and commitment. There is so much, like real life, fact qualities that went into that forum. It's so bizarre in retrospect, but also amazing.
Yeah, no, and fun fact, I don't know if you knew this, Ven, but Artwork 2, Sprites and Shops, and Artwork 3, Comics, were merged.
They were recently merged?
As of, like...
I remember they were merged back then, and then...
they were split apart, and then
they've split up.
They've been remerged.
Wow.
Yeah, so they're back to being... So what it is now, it's general art, fan-created media, and comics. And comics are sprite kits, shops, so on and so forth.
Wow. Must not be that many comics nowadays.
No. The comics forum, I would argue that the comics forum is one of the least active on BZ Power right now. But yeah, no, comics, it was kind of an adventure because it was always this notorious form. Like, you'd have the other forms, and every form had its own vibe. Like, you'd have storyline and theories, and it always felt like it was this rather sophisticated...
Yeah, it was just an ongoing discussion.
Yeah.
Like, real discussion.
Yeah, all the time. And then you'd have completely off-topic, which nobody goes to completely off-topic unscathed. It was a mad land. And then you have buy-sell trade, general discussion, the library, which is very similar to the comics form, but there was always this ongoing kind of rivalry between comics and comedies.
Oh, I remember that. We used to keep in touch with a couple of comedy writers, and oh man, the debates that would come up between that. Comedies are better. You can have so much more content. Comics are better because you can look at them. There's visuals and they look cool, and you don't have to read too much. Well, comedies are better. Like they would just go back and forth on all these stupid arguments.
Yeah, no, it was fascinating. Because, like, the comedies would always be like, you comics, you rely so heavily on your visuals. What we do is real art. We have to describe it and do only with words what you do with pictures. We'd be like, are you kidding me? We have so much more freedom. We have so much more in ways of creative expression. It's fun. It was fascinating.
Yeah, it was. It truly was.
And it's really interesting, too, because, as you mentioned, this is basically how we met. Now, it's a little... It's slightly contested. I'm going to go ahead and throw up another example of your comics. This is actually one of two of the posters for V3. And I will go ahead and send that to you as well. There it is. So, and you can really see through these posters the visual progression as you got better at making them. But, yeah, this is basically how we ended up meeting, and correct me if I'm wrong, Ven, this is rather highly contested, you and I being the first two in TTV to meet.
I want to say yes, because who else would it be?
The only, it's either you and Envy, or Meso and Keeney, but I'm relatively confident you and I met before Meso and Keeney, because that was...
When did Meso and Keeney meet?
Really late 2008 or really early 2009.
No, we knew each other longer than that. Yeah.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Definitely.
The only other one would be you and Envy, but just very briefly in an music topic.
I feel like I knew you longer because you... Was it... Okay. Mange and I came across each other in a Linkin Park topic.
That's right.
And that Linkin Park topic, I remember I posted in it sometime after I started V, but you were there when I started V.
Yeah.
So I think I think you and I knew each other, buddy, if those are the only comparisons.
I think that's accurate. Because
without us, I don't think Meso or Keeney would have met, because I'm pretty sure they met on BZPC in the chat.
That's a really good question. I'll have to ask them, because what ended up happening, we ended up meeting, we ended up talking, of course, and you created a chat room on a website called zat.com, Z-A-T. Sorry, X-A-T. X-A-T.
X-A-T, yeah.
And you made what was called the BZ Power chat room, BZPC. Now, in a kind of ironic twist, this website was not allowed to be linked to on BZ Power because BZ Power.
I used to just pass the link along to my comic friends, including Eljay.
Yeah, so we'd have conversations there, and that's right.
Vaki Fad.
Okay, Justin J. Mahler in the chat, which is Envy. Mesokini and Envy met via the Vaki Fad, which...
When was the Vaki Fad, though?
That was in 2009.
2009? Okay.
Yeah, we met in 08.
Still later. Yeah. That's still later.
So, fair enough. Thank you, Envy. Thank you, Justin J. Mahler. It was epic that you corrected us. Thank you. But yeah, so you made the BZPC, and then you invited a bunch of comic-making friends there, including me, and... Who was it that you invited that ended up inviting a slew of other unrelated people?
Oh, yeah, good old Meso. Meso invited his grandma and all his friends and their grandmas, too. Like, everybody started coming in. And I think it might have been my fault, because I think I remember saying, hey, guys, this is a cool chat, for all my friends, you guys can bring your friends, too, I guess. And I guess Meso took that to an extreme. Was like, I'm inviting literally everyone, even the one person that replied to my post just 5 minutes ago. I'm gonna bring him in. And, oh my goodness, that chat became so congested with all these unfamiliar names, and
It really did too, and it's funny how that chat also grew its own culture and it has its own history, and it's grown and progressed in such a very specific way. It still exists on Discord, but instead of the BZPC, it's now called blank Slate, and that's something I've referenced a few different times.
Yeah, that chat, man. So it's just so crazy thinking that we went from like these Sprite comics and then maybe messaging each other on BZ Power and then going onto that chat room and then just all these different steps that you wouldn't think one would lead to another. And then here we are, we're actual friends. Just through these little steps.
Yeah, no, and like that, the chat ended up branching into IBZP, which in turn branched into TTV, which in turn branched into TTV, the Halo Machinima, which is kind of how you got brought into the fold, Ven. And then you became a part of TTV. And then, we ended up getting into YouTube, and the picture that's part of the thumbnail is you at an event representing TTV, but helping LEGO promote LEGO Boost.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really fascinating how BZ Power's comic culture and how that all progressed. And like, we haven't even touched the surface. There's so much more to the comic culture.
Oh, that's another thing I didn't even really touch up on much, but I'll just briefly say, without BZ Power, I probably wouldn't have gone into art as much as I have. Probably wouldn't have learned to use Photoshop. Wouldn't have met you and all this and that. I probably wouldn't even be as much of a LEGO fan as I am now without going on to BZ Power, because BZ Power is the reason why I stuck with Bionicle throughout the years, because it kept that interest alive in my mind by going on BZ Power all the time and seeing what was new and what was up. But and by the time Bionicle was gone, I started exploring like other LEGO lines and making my own LEGO creations based on Bionicle and so on and so forth. So much to a point where now, because I was into Bionicle so much, it inherently meant that I kept up a consistent interest in LEGO, and boom, now here I am, doing these LEGO events and having made these reviews with TTV, having been on TTV as long as I have and participated and done this and that, having all these amazing experiences, going to Brick Fair and whatnot. Man, it's good stuff.
Yeah,
I like how where all this kind of puts us, as people nowadays. I like that it makes me the LEGO guy in my friend group, and then the Ven to my other friend group, which would be you guys on TTV.
Yeah, no, you're definitely, even though we call you Ven for short, and I think that's really what most people know you as, it's still Venom. I can't think of Venom without associating it with you.
Yeah, but, I can't either.
Yeah,
that persona really honed itself onto me.
Yeah, sure thing, little tiger.
Imagine if I had stuck with the little or the super tiger mantra, and oh my gosh, what a different world we'd be in right now. Hear me out, Black Six. I'm glad I made new accounts. I'm glad I made dupe accounts.
Oh no!
It's okay. I already lost a bunch of proto by now.
That's true. I have too, so we're good there. But yeah, no, it's very interesting how.
Yeah, that's right. And for those who are gonna watch the Venom movie, you're gonna go in thinking of me.
Yeah. Okay. So I do have to ask. We're gonna go ahead and get into some questions here in just a moment. But for starters, are you looking forward to the Venom movie?
No. As a Venom fan, as somebody who has taken a very particular interest in character and symbiotes and this and that, getting to know every bit about them, what symbiotes exist. There's a symbiote named George, everybody. Don't forget that. You're hearing this now. You can look it up. There's a symbiote named George. He was in one comic and he died in the same comic. Anyway. Or maybe two. Might have been two. Well, either way, I know about him. Anyway, as somebody who has vested himself since since childhood into this character. I'm not excited for this movie because it's not being made by the right people, I feel. If it was made by literally anybody, Sony, who is responsible for all these really bad movies that have come out in recent years. I'm not just talking about the Amazing Spider-Man 1 and 2 and Spider-Man 3, because those are the obvious ones that I like to bring up. I'm talking like the Emoji Movie. These people made the Emoji Movie, and they want to then make a Venom movie without Spider-Man. They don't want, like, they're not going to involve the current Marvel Cinematic Universe that's been built up that now has Spider-Man. They don't want to involve their characters in this universe. They want to keep it separate. I don't know. I'm not a big fan of it. I feel like you can't have Venom at all without Spider-Man. So from the get-go, I knew this movie was not going to be my thing, simply because of that fact that they weren't going to include Spider-Man in this origin story. And I don't get what they're doing. Another reason why I'm so against it is because they're trying to make their own cinematic universe based on Spider-Man villains without involving Spider-Man. They're making a Kraven the Hunter movie. Okay, Venom, sure. Venom was a huge character in the 90s. People will go see the Venom movie. A Kraven the Hunter? What?
Yeah, that's fair.
No.
I have no interest in Kraven the Hunter outside of being a villain to Spider-Man.
And knowing that this movie is supposed to lead into that, if it succeeds, just throws all my support out the window. I'm not gonna pay for a ticket. Maybe I'll pirate it, but
oh my goodness! Oh no!
But I'm not gonna go out of my way to see this movie. Not a fan. Nope. Sorry.
Fair enough. Then that's perfectly reasonable. Yeah. No, I'm not gonna go see it. I have no interest in seeing the movie.
Based on the trailers, though, he does look cool. I'll give them that. They did pretty okay with the visuals.
Yeah. It's fair. But all right. In that case, let's go ahead and move into the questions from people listening, and we do have an email question, and I always appreciate email questions because they help me keep things very neatly organized. So this question, 2 questions from Everett Whitaker, and they ask, 2 questions for the most notorious Ven. You are a talented artist, both musically and drawing-wise. How do you deal with artist's block?
Oh, man. That's, it's funny. I didn't even mention the music that I work on. I guess that's actually how I deal with artist block. I maintain various different ways of expressing myself, whether it be through music or drawing or making videos or what have you. If there's something I'm stuck on, like say I want to draw but I don't know what to draw, I'll just say, you know what, screw it. I'll just do something. I'll make a video. I haven't made a video in a while, or I haven't made a song in a while, and usually something comes up. I'm always inspired to do something, I feel, whether it is a song or a drawing or whatever, and that's kind of what keeps me going. Because eventually, as I continue to work on one project, I'll somehow draw up inspiration for another. So I guess the simplest way to answer this question is just keep yourself busy by doing what you know. Do something different every so often, and then the inspiration will hit you when it comes.
Okay. Fair enough. In that instance, Everett's second question is, I would be remiss if I didn't ask, what's the best deal you've ever gotten on eBay? Thank you for your time.
Oh man, the best deal. It's a toss-up between the things I got from Tough Toys and getting an Axelara T9 for just $30.
Oh, what?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. That's awfully good.
That one might have been it. It might have been it. Because what else? There's one other big thing. Oh, that's right. I also won a Millennium Falcon on eBay for like $60.
Oh, jeez.
But that's not as good as the Axelara, because look, the Axelara has more of a story to it. The story, I'll be brief, is a long time ago in 2008, of course, duh. I wanted the Axelara. My dad pushed me to save up money to get it. I got into Transformers, forgot the Axelara existed, wanted this one Transformer that was around when I was halfway through saving my money. As soon as I got all the money, I looked for that Transformer. It wasn't there. Instead of common sense would be, oh, my Transformer isn't there. I'll just get the Axelara instead since I have the money for it now. No, it did not come to mind. Instead, because I was so fixated on my stupid Transformers, I picked up like 3 random Transformer figures that I don't even remember the names to. One of them is broken. I know that for sure. Instead of getting the Axelara, because somehow it slipped my mind that it existed. So, yeah, Axelara for sure.
Oh my goodness. Jeez.
That was the same guy that made those V comics, man. Made that decision.
I have few words, but thankfully, everyone asking questions, they have words.
There's more. Yeah, let's keep it going.
Yeah, we'll go ahead and move into the live YouTube chat here. So, we have a few questions by Snake Jaguar. First of which, what was your first Lego and Bionicle set?
My first Bionicle set, I want to say it was Lee Rock, the Green Rockshi. It was either him or 3 of the Borak Cal. I don't remember which ones I got first. But I do have I have more memories. I remember Lee Rock being there a lot of the time, so I'm just gonna say Lee Rock.
Okay.
Especially since it's a singular figure.
That's fair. Okay, was that also your first general Lego set?
First Lego set? That one is way older. I think I got my first Lego set when I was like 3 or 4. It wasn't even Duplo. I don't think my parents knew about Duplo. It was an actual system set. I remember I had a big box. So it was either this big box or a little race car. It was one of those two. Those are the ones I remember the most fondly when it comes to my early childhood.
Okay. All right. In that case, the next question is, what is your favorite Lego and Bionicle set?
That's tough. That is truly, truly tough. My favorite Lego set. Okay, I think I'll... Okay, favorite Bionicle set first. I will say it's... Okay. No, that's tough too. Oh! That's so hard. Okay, I'll just say the first things that come to mind. Favorite Bionicle set, Brutaka. And favorite Lego set, that isn't Bionicle, I'll give it to the UCS Y-Wing.
Really? That's peculiar.
Because I just got that recently and I love it. No, dang it. There's a set that I think is better than that. Voltron.
Wait.
I like Voltron way more.
Oh, yeah! Voltron! That's a thing.
I can't even lie. I forgot about Voltron because I don't have it sitting in my room. I got Voltron, but I gave it to my dad as a gift because I already knew how amazing it was. But I have the Y-Wing sitting with me, so that's why... No, Voltron is probably my favorite system set, and Brutaka, I'll say for now, is my favorite Bionicle set. That may change later if I think of any others.
Fair enough. Okay, that's fair. I only got to build the Green Lion from Voltron. So I don't know how the rest of it is, but I assume if it's anything like the Green Lion, it's really, really, really good.
Oh, it's great. It's a great set.
That's fantastic.
I got to play with one a little bit. It's so cool.
All right, if you're listening, Neek, thumbs up.
Yeah. Make more.
All right, now next question, still by Snake Jaguar, is do you like Ninjago?
Yeah, I like Ninjago. I don't dislike it. I'm not very indifferent to it because I actually did pick up a couple of sets, watch the show. I enjoy it. I think it's a cool line.
Okay, fair enough. And finally, which would you give up if you had to, Bionicle or Spider-Man?
Oh, you know what? Nowadays, Bionicle.
Okay,
because
fair
it's dead. Woo! Easy.
Wow. Alright.
It doesn't matter to me now. Now I'm making system mocks, so woo!
Okay, fair enough. The next question is from Justin J. Mahler, and he asks, "Hey Ven, how do you feel about the lyrics to the Crawling demo?"
Oh, they're the best. I love those lyrics. I wish they used them in the real song. So that way, if I ever sing the song with my friends in the car or something, we'll all do the little rap that they never included in the final version. So good. You can't see it, but I'm doing a thumbs up.
We'll imagine it. Okay. In that case, we'll take a few more questions from anyone who has any, and then we'll go ahead and wrap up. In the meantime, I'll go ahead and show some of the comics you made for V3 on screen right now, which kind of show how much better your comics got eventually.
Oh, you know what? I need to look for the very last comic that I ever made.
I think I have it.
Pretty recent.
I'm relatively confident I have it here.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah, because this one also... It also has the Pandemic Panda at the bottom of the comic.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah.
Maybe that was it?
Potentially. But yeah, no, they got much better. And as you can see here, to anyone looking. I'll go ahead and send these to you, Vin.
Oh, man. Oh, wow. I forgot these comics existed.
Yeah. Okay.
You know, it's funny. I think for the longest time, I thought for some reason that Venom was immune to fire. So I just incorporated that in my comics. Because I'm looking at that, I'm immediately like, they should be dying right now.
Yeah.
Maybe not Anti-Venom. Surprisingly, Anti-Venom is impervious to fire.
Well, that's fair. And he is engulfed in fire, but yeah, also so is Ven.
And then that next one... That was definitely the last comic I made for V3. I think there was one more that I made past that, though. Oh, I haven't.
Oh, no. Well, in that case, no.
You think that was my last comic?
That was the last one for V3 that I found.
Alright, I'm sending you the last comic I ever made.
Oh yeah, I saw this. I'll go ahead and I will link this for anyone who is interested. Because it doesn't show up the same. Maybe I hope that link will work. Okay, yeah, it should.
You might have to crop it.
Yeah, I'm just gonna go ahead and link that in the live chat, and yeah, you can look at that blood warning.
Slight blood warning.
It's amazing.
You know what? I'm gonna crop this out a little bit for the video. But anyway, was there any more questions, real quick?
Yes, we do have a few more questions. Let me see here. So the Scorpion Strike asks, "Are there any are there any differences between Bionicle and system mocking to you?"
There was for a while, but I got myself into system mocking a lot more recently, and I started to incorporate it with my Bionicle builds. You can see that in my last two videos for Mock Spotlight on the TTV channel, how I talk about wanting to improve and stuff. And I honestly don't really think so. I mean, there's different ways you can go about it, sure. And but I feel like at this point they don't necessarily need to be mutually exclusive. If anything, I feel that incorporating some system actually helps out some Bionicle builds quite a lot. There's some aesthetics and textures you can't really get right with just by using Bionicle parts, and same goes for system. for system, you might not achieve that full amount of greebly goodness you might want if you're making a Bionicle character, a robot of some sort. So, and I feel there's a lot of really cool mocks online that help support that idea that, if anything, the two mediums help each other a lot, and they should kind of go together a little bit more often.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that's fair.
Yeah, because once I started using system in my own mocks, I've become a lot happier with how they look.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Let me see here. Now, Shadow King 56 asks, if you were given, I think that's 10 billion? I'm not sure. A lot of money, a lot of zeros. If you're given, I'm going to say $10 billion, what would you do with it?
I would buy, like, 15 acres or something of land and build a bunch of houses for family and friends and whoever is just nice to me, I guess. So just, like, start up my own little neighborhood.
Oh my goodness, I'm sorry, man. I don't know if I can live in your neighborhood.
We could even start up our own fiber internet service.
Okay, now...
It would be amazing.
So long as it isn't in California, I'm somewhat on
No,
board
it
now.
would not be in California. California, everything's taken. There's no free acres here. You gotta go out somewhere rural and then turn it into a city.
I have conflicting feelings about that, so we're gonna move on. The Scorpion Strike asks, favorite part of the Bionicle storyline?
Oh, man. Like, okay. Like, favorite detail, like one little detail or favorite year?
I'm not sure.
Which should I'll do both. Favorite detail, Motoro dying. Because that is
just
like the
about to
funniest
say.
thing.
Remember the signatures in BZ Power? Rest in peace.
Yeah, that was hilarious. And that came at a really good point when I was really starting to get into Bionicle 2. Motoro dying was when I really grew to love Bionicle. I don't think it was necessarily because Motoro died, but it just so happened to be my second Bionicle awakening after my Transformer phase.
Yeah.
And then favorite year is 2008.
Really?
A lot of nostalgia for that year because, again, it's kind of the same thing, same reasoning, actually, because that was the year that I got back into Bionicle after kind of dropping out a teeny bit, and I always liked that aspect of the Toa coming back, like the original Toa coming back and having new forms. I was all over that. They might not have looked the greatest, and I know especially with the Mystica, people did not like the redesigns. I kind of did. I just liked seeing just the original Toa upgraded in some way to be more compatible or more up to date along with the other sets that were coming out at the time. I don't know. There's something about that year that just felt cool to me.
Mm-hmm. I see. Okay, fair enough. In that case, we'll do
Which
a few...
is funny because it's like not a very popular opinion.
Yeah. No. A few more questions. Also, Envy wanted me to ask you about a time travel comic. We couldn't find it. So if maybe after the show...
It's probably the Christmas one.
See, I was thinking it was a Christmas one, but I just couldn't find it anywhere.
I might have it, but
Okay,
in the meantime, I sent you cropped photos of the last comic I ever made.
Oh my goodness. Okay, fine. Fine. I'll go ahead and put this up. Here. Let me see. Save that image. In the meantime, another question, so you can kind of discuss this. How did you get into making music?
Oh, man. I used to play around with this program. It was really out of curiosity. I learned about this program called Mixcraft, and I don't remember what kind of pushed me to learning it. Oh, no. I remember what it was now. In school, I had a computer class, and there was we used Macs, so we used GarageBand. Or no, the Macs had GarageBand, and so me and some friends would play around, or some friends and I would play around with GarageBand a little bit, And I guess one day I thought to myself, man, I wish GarageBand was on PC. Maybe there's something similar to it. So I found Mixcraft, tried making my own songs with the loops and stuff, and I don't know, I liked it. I started sharing whatever I made with TTV dudes, and they liked it. And we started. I thought it'd be a cool idea to make music for our stuff. Nobody else was really doing that at the time. So, oh, what you need? You're making a new series for the channel. Need music? Okay, I'll be the guy. And that's basically how I got into it.
Huh.
I found the comic with the time travel. This one, it's also a long comic. I don't think I'll crop this one.
No, you're fine. That's mostly something. It's mostly something Envy and I wanted. And he actually posted it in the live YouTube chat. Hi, this is Joseph Clark, and I'm Dan Goldstein, and we're the creators of Mixcraft. Hello. Hi, this is Joseph Clark,
Dude,
and I'm Dan Mangosteen.
I hated that so much every time because I never bought Mixcraft. I just used the trial version. So after every while that I would be testing out a song, hitting that play button, it wouldn't be my song. It'd be stupid. Hi, this is Joseph Clark, and I'm Dan Goldstein. We're the co-creators of Mixcraft. Please show your support for Mixcraft by clicking on the bio link. Thank you. And then the little weird piano tune, dude, and then it would play my song. Stupid.
That's amazing.
Yeah, no, I use FL Studio now, by the way, and if anybody's curious, I've moved on from Mixcraft and loops and stuff. I make my own stuff now.
Oh, jeez.
Man, I love this comic. That
I'm
looking at the video. And...
I need to spend some time going through the one you sent me. This is going to be amazing.
Happy holidays from LJ Claus. He died for your joy.
Oh, wow. But what can I really do to accomplish that goal? Oh, boy. Well, in that case, I think this is a good enough place as any to go ahead and wrap up. What do you say,
Yeah.
Ben?
Sounds fine to me. I feel pretty happy.
All right.
I like this. I like this episode.
Awesome. It was fun having you on and kind of going down memory
Thanks
lane.
for having me on, buddy.
Of course. Yeah, no. Anytime you want to be back, we'll go ahead and schedule it, and you're always welcome to be a guest on the show again.
It might not be that one night where we stayed up all night talking about random stuff while I played Bionicle the game, but you know what? It's the closest we're gonna get, and I am down.
That sounds good to me. I remember our hair was so long, and so yours was really long at that time too. It's funny.
Long hair. And it was so thick too. It wouldn't stay down. I could just raise it up, and it would stick up.
Yeah, no, that's what mine usually does. I got a lot of volume in my hair, and it just stays up.
That and it used to be super oily and nasty.
Oh gosh. Yeah, keep it clean.
Why I cut it.
That's fair. That's true. All right. Well, is there anywhere on social media you'd like to plug, promote, and
yes,
have people follow you at?
Like I mentioned earlier, I am posting art, and you can see it at my Instagram or my Twitter. You can follow either of the two, maybe both. Up to you. You can find me at the Notorious Ven. Gotta include the and yeah, there you'll find that I every now and then post some digital art that I create in my spare time or commissions. I do take commissions. Right now, if you want something really cool, fully colored, I'll do it for $35. It could be whatever you want. And I do have other options as well. So if you need help visualizing a character concept or some sort of visual media for a project you're working on, let me know. I am down. We can discuss the prices later. My favorite part about being an artist is just not only realizing my own ideas, but realizing the ideas of others. So that's where you can find me. I usually have more personal updates on my Twitter, so if you're kind of curious about what I've been up to or what LEGO MOCs I might be working on, I'll most likely post it there. I'll post it on the message boards, or you can just follow my series on the TTV channel, Mock Spotlight, where I used to post it every week. Now I just kind of post it whenever I want. So
Okay.
that's basically that, yeah.
Awesome. In that case, I will have links to both of those in the description below. I highly recommend checking those out. All right.
Also,
yes.
Almost forgot this. Scorpion Strike actually just reminded me. I'm doing Bionicle custom mask paintings now. So meaning if you want a custom physical Bionicle mask in a color that you like say Tahu's famous Hao, but in dark blue, I can actually paint that for you. Just let me know on the message boards. LJ, I'll give you a link so you can put that in the description as well.
Sure.
This is like a little side project I'm starting to kick up again. Just to kind of another one of those things to keep me busy, really. And because I do a lot of my own painted masks for my own Lego creations. So yeah, anything you have in mind, let me know there.
Perfect.
And that's that.
Excellent. And like I said, I'll have those in the description, so definitely check those out. And thanks, Scorpion Strike, for the reminder. Okay. Well, in that case, we're going to go ahead and wrap things up, Ben. Once again, thanks so much for coming on. This has been a lot of fun.
Most definitely, dude.
All right. And thank you to everyone who listened today and tuned in, be it the live version or the recorded one that will be out hopefully this weekend. Hopefully you had fun. If you want any updates and to follow me, or go head on over to Twitter. I'm trying to keep this contained. I'm trying to keep it going, but it's coming out very awkward, so I'm just going to start over. Once again, thank you all so very much for listening. Head on over to Twitter for updates and guest announcements every Tuesday for The Eljay Johnsen Show. Make sure that is at The Eljay Johnsen. And if you have any questions of the week, make sure you head on over to my email at, well, not at, but eljayjohnsen@gmail.com. Remember, that's JOHNSEN. This show airs every single weekend, every Saturday, usually at 4 o'clock p.m. EDT. However, that does change depending on the guest, so make sure to follow me on Twitter for updates. Okay,